everybody, it is Wednesday, it is March the 12th, and we are live. Welcome to everybody from around the world who's joining us. We are live at our normal time, unless of course you're based in the Americas, in which case we're an hour later than normal because the clocks have moved. Why, oh why cannot the world just move their clocks on the same date in every country? Is it too difficult? Or indeed, could we just get rid of daylight savings? Let me have your views in the comments. Anyway, rant over. We are going to move on now. We are going to be talking about global mobility at JLL. And I'm so excited. We have backstage the wonderful, the awesome, the legend that is Nicole Milman from JLL. So we've got a great show for you lined up today. You are going to love it. Now you know how it works, everybody. Please join in the conversation, write in the comments box, tell us who you are, what you are, tell us what's going on in your world, share the information, share the love. We are available, we are live on LinkedIn, we are live on YouTube, and indeed we even have our own Spotify channel. So if you want to catch us on Spotify, you can do that. As I said, otherwise we're on LinkedIn and on YouTube as well. Now, I know that many of you like to get your codes, your CPE codes, and we have them from ERC, we have them from SHRM, and we have them from HRCI. And there are the codes. So many thanks to our good friends at ERC for giving us the GMS and the CRP codes. Thanks also to our good friends at Rocket Mortgage who give us the HRCI and the SHRM codes. We are truly indebted to you. And of course, if you want your CPE codes, there they are. We're now going to share a little bit of news about what's been going on in the wonderful world of global mobility over the last 7 days. So let's just see what's been going on. So who's moved job? Who's been promoted? What jobs are out there? What better way than to find out in our quick breaking news mobility minute? So there we have it. Congratulations to everyone who has been promoted in the last 7 days. Congratulations to everyone who's got a new job. And if you're looking, there are loads of jobs out there. They are up there. And if you have a bit of news you want to share with the industry, then just drop us a line on LinkedIn or by email to any of us, myself or Tally. And we will try and give you your moment in the sun as we tell the world about your promotion, we tell the world about your new job, or indeed if you've got a job that you want to promote, a job offering out there that you want to get filled, again, let us know. We are completely free service, so if we can help anybody find a job, if we can help promote a job opportunity, we will absolutely do so. So we're now going to move on. We're going to be talking about immigration. Actually, before I do, I should say that next week our show, we've got a great subject. It's the first time we've done it, but it's really important. We're going to be talking about home sale in global mobility. It's a really important subject, especially in the US market. And there have been some big changes, which I think are going to affect the way that that whole market goes, especially for the RMCs. So we're going to be talking about that next week. Really important subject. Meanwhile, we're going to be going on now to talk about immigration, and back with us once again is the wonderful, the legend, the awesome Julia Onslow Cole. So you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button, and let's welcome to our stage Julia Onslow Cole. Hey, Julia, how you
Hi.
doing?
Hi. Very well, thank you, Brian. Very
And
well.
you're somewhere exotic today.
Yes, I'm in Costa Rica today. Yes, I'm
Nice.
really excited to be here. Yeah.
I think you've made pretty much every global mobility professional in the world jealous right now.
Oh, yes. Well, it's
Yeah.
beautifully sunny and looks lovely.
Okay, so tell us about your topic for the day.
Yes, so I thought, well, as I'm in Costa Rica and I'm with the fantastic Leonora Echevarri, who's the regional head of our Latin America practice and her team, I thought I'd just give you an update on what's happening in Costa Rica. And thank you to Laura Weingart for this, lot of the facts in the update. But Costa Rica has a very stable and long-standing democracy, and because of its political stability and its functioning institutions and its open environment, it's a really good place for investment. And it is really amazing, all the companies that are here in Costa Rica and all the different industries like semiconductors, etc., that are supported here. And interestingly enough, Costa Rica is regarded as the leader in human capital. The country produces 60,000 STEM graduates each year, which is really very,
Wow.
very impressive. And what
That,
happened in
5% of
nine,
the population? I mean,
yeah, yeah,
that's
it's
incredible.
really, really high. Um, so what happened in 1948, it decided to disband its army and stop actually investing in the army, but instead to redirect all of the investment that was going in the army into schools. So the World Economic Forum ranks Costa Rica's education system to be the absolute best in Latin America. And as well as, just the best education, a lot of it is because the languages are really incredible in the way that they've been taught. So Fragment are doing this flagship event tomorrow in Costa Rica with the trade minister. And also we're supported by AmCham and the Permits Foundation. And one of the reasons that the Permits Foundation is interesting, and as you know, I sit on the board of the Permits Foundation, is that we think Costa Rica would really benefit if they could change the law to make automatic permission for dependents to work. So
Absolutely.
that's what Permits are advocating. That's what Fragment have been advocating. So that's going to be discussed at tomorrow's meeting. And although Latin America and particularly Costa Rica does have a lot of challenges with mass migration, and that's particularly from South and Central America, the government is really proactive in trying to attract talent, because although it has a lot of talent, they realise that for certain industries, outside talent is really needed, and they want to help companies bring talent in. So there is a bill that's under discussion at the moment that would have a very positive impact about streamlining the attractiveness to Costa Rica. Just on a practical note, at the moment, there's a few little issues with the online filing. So I talked to the team this morning and they said that that's something that anyone who's looking in today might want to be aware of, and you have to do applications in person while this is being sorted out. Oh, a nice little note from Helen saying
Shout
that,
out to Helen. Absolutely. Great.
yeah, well, shout out to Helen and Permit. So, yes, so that's something you should be mindful of. Also, there is an employer scheme, so an accredited employer scheme, and these are wonderful schemes, and we have these all over the world. We have them in South Africa, we have them in the UK, and there is one in Costa Rica. So if you're an employer and you're part of this program, you get much shorter processing times and also the ability for your people to work while the applications are being processed. Now, this is really amazing because ordinarily applications can take up to a year. And also there's some short-term work authorization pathways. There isn't anything for specialized talent or specific sectors, but still, if you're an employer in Costa Rica and you're not part of this program, you absolutely need to be. And finally, I was just going to say, obviously, what's happening in the US with the US administration and globally with tariffs and trade, that's never far from everybody's mind. And as we know, President Trump is saying that he's, not happy with the CHIPS Act. That was an act introduced under the Biden administration, which would have given 39 billion in subsidies and 75 billion in credits to companies to create their own sort of semiconductor industry or boost it, and it would, a lot of that money would go to Costa Rica, creating jobs and establishing a regional hub. So obviously that's a slight worry, as is general the position with Mexico and tariffs. So there is uncertainty hanging over, but there is uncertainty globally, as we know.
I think that's probably the understatement of the day, that there is uncertainty. Absolutely. And it's interesting to hear about that. I mean, we hear about the CHIPS Act, but it's interesting to hear the ramifications for countries outside the US, like Costa Rica. Julia, thank you so much for that update. Really, really appreciated. We're now going to be moving on. We're now going to be talking tax, and we have the wonderful Julie Barron about to join us. So everybody, you know how it works. Let's give a big, big thank you to Julie Onslow Cole, and a big, big welcome to Julie Barron in the time-honored manner of hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit the applause button. Hey, Julie, how are you doing?
Doing very well, Brian. Thank you.
Sadly, not in Costa Rica.
No, I'm sadly here in Northern Virginia, although we are going to hit 60-some degrees today. So it's going to be a nice, spring is here, I think.
Nice, spring is sprung. So where are we going in the world today?
Today we are going to Belgium, where
cool.
I'm going to give some potential updates. So Belgium had a big...
I'd say no waffle, please.
Oh boy, now you're going to throw me off, Brian.
Go for it.
Yeah, so last summer they had an election, and while they've been working on their coalition government, they've been working on some potential tax changes. So on the 31st of January, they released some information about what these potential tax changes should be. So I want to say that again, these are not actual changes, but this is something that is in a master plan that they have been working on to potentially change some of the tax legislation. And some of it is very relevant for our mobile population. So I thought I would just kind of go through it. And if you do have assignees in Belgium, there may be some good news coming your way. So they did talk about making the expat regime more attractive. And right now that is a 30% tax-free amount that you can get if you're an expat in Belgium. But it is capped at 90,000 euros. And so the potential change is to make it 35%, but take the cap off. So for your highly paid employees, that's an extremely good reason to move to Belgium, and you can have a much bigger piece of your income tax-free while you're there. So they're trying to attract more talent, obviously, to come to Belgium, some more tax revenue for the Belgians. So that will be a huge impact on...
all the puns are coming in today. Another one for Susan Sprouting.
Pretty good, pretty good.
Okay. We want more Belgian puns to come through.
Yes, I'm sure there are more coming our way. So then, that you may need to change contracts. You may need to think about how does that impact how you pay people in Belgium, because this tax exempt allowance, if it goes uncapped, that could save your taxpayers a lot of money. They have introduced what they are calling a solidarity contribution, but what it really is a capital gains tax. So previously they hadn't had a capital gains tax, but now they want to bring in this solidarity contribution, which basically would tax the increase in value on financial assets, really just starting from when the law comes into play. So again, not in play yet, but may come in. So that's always been an attractive feature of Belgium with no capital gains tax. So that may come into play if these new laws pass. There will be a tax exempt amount of 10,000 euros, but we'll see what happens there. But change for people with capital gains in Belgium. They did originally in one of the drafts discuss, will that change affect stock options and different kinds of compensation income like that? No, it won't change any of that. So the solidarity charge will not be on any kind of equity-based compensation. And in another interesting development, they talked about bringing a tax favorable amount for carried interest schemes, which most countries are trying to do away with carried interest and making them compensation and not have a lower tax rate. And Belgium's actually... I didn't
realize that was most countries. There's a lot of countries doing the same thing. I know it's
talking about it, right?
Big talking point, but that's around the world, is it? People are looking to
tax. Yeah. So basically, Belgium is saying, hey, we're going to make Belgium really attractive for people, and we're going to make tax carried interest even more tax favorable. So that's an interesting one. The other interesting piece is that they are considering putting a cap on employer Social Security. Now, again, at a pretty high salary of 250,000 euros, but that's a huge difference for employers who pay Belgian Social Security while people are there. That could be a big savings for those employers. And what that would mean is if that cap does come into play, then some of the schemes that are in place where you're trying to pay people things that are exempt from Social Security won't be necessary anymore, and you can start paying people more cash and it won't cost you so much. And then there's other interesting tax deductions, tax exemptions, tax rebates. So they've put in a lot of things just to make the tax system and, do you want to live in Belgium much more attractive. So I find it very interesting what they're trying to do in Belgium to really draw people in. Cool.
So it's not just about chocolate then in Belgium. There's going to be lots of tax
and fries.
So there we have it. So that's a fascinating update. Thank you so much. And I know you said some of those are potential tax changes.
These are all potential, so nothing is happening yet.
Absolutely. But that's the way that the thinking goes. So thank you so much, Julie. We're now going to move on, and I'm delighted to say we've got Beth backstage to give us our Benevo Minute. So you know how it works. As we say goodbye to Julie Barron and welcome to our stage, Beth Nilsson, please hit the heart button, hit the like button, and hit that applause button. Hey, Beth, how you doing?
I'm well, thank you, Brian. Hello, thanks for having me today.
And you're newly back from FEM in Amsterdam, I believe.
Yep, last Friday. I was there for most of the week and had the most amazing time. The weather was unbelievable. We've been there in rain, we've been there in snowstorms, and last week it was sunshine. People sitting on the river having beer and wine. It was just phenomenal the whole week. And obviously the event on Friday, congratulations to Claire and the team for putting on another extraordinary show. Thank you so much.
Congratulations, but don't mention the beer and wine. We've got to tell them it's a work event. But anyway, it sounds fantastic. And what are you going to tell us about today?
So just a short update today, sharing that we are doing our, some of you may have seen me on the VIP show that we did a few weeks ago with my colleague Chris. We are going to be doing a corporate only webinar on March the 25th, where Michelle's going to share a link so that you can register for that. Please do come along. Any questions? I would love to share more about that premium white glove service and how it works and how it's a little bit different. And it's going to be 11 a.m. Eastern on the 25th of March. See you there.
Cool. Okay, that looks really good. So thank you so much. And I don't know if anyone's noticed, but we've got Michelle Curran, who is doing our producer for the day. She's our head of marketing at Benevo. She's very kindly stepping in for the wonderful Tally Goran, who is having a well-earned vacation this week, skiing with her family. So Tally, on the odd chance you're listening in, love from everybody in the mobility community, and have a great holiday. And thank you so much to the wonderful Michelle for helping out today as our producer du jour. So we're now going to move on, and I'm so excited. We have backstage the legend that is Nicole Milman, and as you meet her, you will find about her personal career and about mobility at JLL. So much to talk about. It's going to be great fun. So everybody, you know how it works. Hit the heart button, hit the like button, hit the applause button. Let's say a big thank you to Beth Nilsson, and welcome to our stage, Nicole Milman. Hey, Nicole, welcome to the show. So great to see you.
Thank you for having me. Lovely, lovely intro video. I loved all of the JLL buildings. Really, really nice.
So just tell us, for those people who don't know JLL, what does JLL do? Tell us a bit about the company itself.
So we are one of the main leaders in the real estate business, which is why I really liked all of the buildings that you put on show in your video, as well as having an investment arm. And we have over 100,000 employees in over 80 locations. So very globally sat organization.
Okay, so a market leader in real estate with some pretty fancy buildings there as well, as we saw in the photos. And I know the company's been around a long time. So
yes, it's very well established, and I can say the offices are beautiful. So the ones I've seen are very, very nice.
Nice. Okay. So Nicole, I was saying in the introduction that your career journey is actually pretty interesting itself, because some people sort of go into, in fact, probably most people go into mobility somehow by accident at some point in their career. They fall into it.
Everyone does that. I don't think anyone
did, you were pretty much born into mobility. So tell us about your childhood and about your expat life as a kid.
So that is true, but I would say as a child I didn't know I was born into mobility. I didn't even know the word mobility.
I know you might not have known it, but you're almost in the water you were drinking as a child.
Yeah, so I was born in Hong Kong to my expat parents, of course, who were living out in Hong Kong. And really, as a child, I would say for me, it felt like a normal lifestyle. So I went to school, I went to the country club, I did lots of activities. I had what I would consider at that point a very normal childhood. All of my friends had the same childhood. We had helpers in the house. We went on nice holidays, did a number of very varied activities. So every afternoon I would play tennis or swimming or diving or gymnastics. It was lovely, to be honest. If I could have it back, if someone was going to give me my childhood back, I would take it. But I don't think anyone's giving me that back. I don't think it exists.
That's the way life works, sadly. But you had this idyllic expat childhood, and I suspect that's not there these days. I mean, I appreciate Hong Kong's changed, but more significantly, I think just the expat lifestyle. I mean, you had what I suppose people used to call almost like a full fat expat package that people rarely see. So, I mean, I appreciate you were a child, but tell us a bit about, if you like, the lifestyle that your parents had as, if you like, traditional expats from a bygone era.
So they had the house fully paid by my father's company. We had trips home once a year, as well as the accommodation when we were coming home. We had also additional holidays because they were called relax periods of time for the family. So we would go to Thailand or Malaysia.
It was hardship being in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was tremendous hardship. We had a car, we had private schools. So I went to the Chinese International School. We had the country club that was fully paid for by my father's company. We actually have life membership. So when I do go to Hong Kong, I can still go there and I just sign my name and they welcome me with open arms. And I don't really know where the bills go because I didn't settle anything. I just say goodbye and they're like, bye, bye, bye. So
that's amazing. Presumably your father's company at the time took out life membership, but they must have known that as an expat, he wasn't going to be, maybe they did think he was going to be there forever.
My parents were there for 13 years, so they were there quite a long time. And my father had a very good job there. And for, I guess, like as a child or looking back, when I asked my father, I'm like, oh, okay, can I have the card for the life membership? He's like, yes, here's the card. I don't know how he negotiated it. Maybe he did. Maybe he said it's he was in finance. Maybe he said it's more beneficial to take life yearly. Could have been.
Amazing. And then, you know, we talk about culture shock, but you then came back to rainy England, and you were sort of British, but you weren't British. I mean, you'd never lived in Britain, but you came back because you were born in Hong Kong, and you came back at what age?
At 8. So we came back when I was 8. And I remember very clearly that my uncle had rented us a house, and we got to this house and I was thinking, ooh, it's a little bit grim looking, but thinking, okay, fine, we're there temporarily. And I just remember thinking, why have we come? I actually remember the night before standing in the balcony in Hong Kong thinking, why are we leaving this? I don't want to leave this. And then arriving in cold London, and it was the summer and it was cold. So it was June and it was cold.
Okay, so if you're remembering this at a time from when you were 8, this is obviously quite traumatic.
It was very traumatic. We turned up at this house, and I remember my older sister saying she gets a bigger bedroom, and I was thinking, okay, fine. And it was a little bit dull. And my mum was saying, oh, don't worry, we're going to buy a nice house. This is temporarily. This is where we're staying. And then we went to see schools. And my parents were looking at private schools for us. And I went to see one of the schools, and I was used to more of a nurturing kind of environment in Hong Kong, more fun. It felt more fun. And I remember leaving the school and saying, I'm not going to that school. So my parents were like, okay, what are we doing with you? So we had to go and see different schools for me because I refused to go to the school they wanted me to go to. I was very stubborn as a child. I was probably a hard child.
Say, can we go back? I mean, presumably at the age of 8, you didn't really understand why.
No, but my older sister did say she wants to go back. So she was saying, this is not working. And they're like, no, we need to be here now. And I remember them saying that they had the opportunity to go to Australia, but it was too far away. And we were thinking, that sounds so much better. Why are we here? Why didn't we go to Australia?
Oh, God. So tell me, how many times then did you did you go on assignment later?
So later through my life, I have been, firstly, I'm married to an Argentinian, so quite multicultural family I've got as well. And together, me and my husband have been to China for his work. So we're in Shanghai. Then we went to the US for my work. We've been in Poland for my work. Whilst I was on maternity leave, my husband went to Morocco. We were meant to go there, but that didn't quite happen. And have we been anywhere else to live? And the UK, of course. So quite a lot of places.
Wow, that's amazing. So, and you've been both a trailing spouse and also your husband's have been a trailing spouse. Is that correct?
Yes, I think he prefers it when he trails.
So anyway, so that's about your career journey, but I want to find out a bit about mobility at JLL. So tell us about that. Tell us about the program that you have there at JLL.
So we have, I'm very proud of the program that we have here. So I've been at JLL coming up to 3 years. And in that time, so much has evolved with the mobility space. My team is now globally sat, so we can really reach our stakeholders in real time in all of the locations, which makes a difference. It really does, to have someone on the ground or in that time zone being able to connect with this business as well as with the employees. On top of that, as of this year, we've expanded the scope. So we're now looking after all of global immigration. And what that means is any immigration that is done, let's say you've got a new hire in country. So my team will look after that immigration process. If we've got people within any of the entities around the world that have joined JLL on a non-sponsored visa or a sponsored visa, my team will track that. We will ensure that everyone has the right to work as required, of course. We will also manage all of the tracking for renewals and extensions of visas. And so with that new scope, we've built out a capability team in India, and we've got, we've currently got two people there. We're just filling the third job role, so we've just extended out the last offer. And we're putting in place all of our Visio maps, our SOPs, our processes. On top of that, we're also moving immigration vendors as well. So we're in the process of doing that. So we're really trying to make sure that our compliance level, our governance level is top notch, especially for the company of JLL's size, and to make sure that we can be agile as the business grows or develops in different locations.
Okay, so let's just unbundle that a bit, because you were talking about quite a lot there. So give me an idea, first of all, of volumes. I mean, how many people do you have on, if you like, traditional transfers, whether it's short-term, long-term, et cetera, and then how big is this new area of the immigration for in-country hires?
So our global mobility population for assignments, so traditional assignments, is low. We're tracking about 15 a year assignments. Then we have approximately
that's tiny for a company with 100,000.
It is. Most of our moves are permanent transfers. And I think if we look at the industry now, a lot of companies are moving to that. Let's do a permanent transfer, either business initiated or applied for the internal job, or even employee initiated. So that population is about 200. And then we have also our US domestic relocations, which are probably about 80 a year. And then with our immigration, so now if we look at our new scope, we have sponsored visas, approximately 1,400 people globally.
Right. Okay, so that's much bigger, yeah.
Exactly. So that's increased the scope tremendously. And then on top of that, we also are now looking after also the people who are not on sponsored visas. And I don't honestly have the exact data to that, but it's probably in the region of a couple of thousand globally for that.
Who was looking after them before?
So every country was dealing with it locally inside what we call our HR services team. So there was a lot of report running, Excel sheets being utilized to track it. And what we wanted really, so that we don't miss anyone, and also so that we have a consistent global process, was to bring it all together and say, okay, how can we globalize it, put in one way of doing it and make it work? And because we have the data of everything sponsored, it's easy for us to pull the data from Workday and merge it together to keep a better track of everything globally.
Absolutely. And I know we've done a show on this with our immigration hub, but I know one of the issues that often comes up with companies is that when they don't control it in that way, then they're not able to budget the seasonality of saying, or the cyclicality of saying that, yes, we're going to have to do new visa applications, so many are going to have to be done in this month. And so we've got to get the budget to do it. I mean, is that a problem that you were facing beforehand? That whole sort of understanding, the likelihood of timings of costs and workloads?
So not necessarily per se. So when we set the budget, we do look at the data holistically, and we do add a buffer on. So I wouldn't say that was as much the issue, but we did have, so I put together a global immigration policy probably about a year and a half ago. And with that policy, whether it was truly followed or abided by in all of the locations is yet to be determined. So that also can create an equity, because if one business line says, okay, we're going to approve permanent residence or indefinite leave to remain, and another says they won't, then you have people who do talk and will say, well, why did so-and-so get that? Why can't I have that? So having one team look after the policy and what we as JLL want to support and what we want to pay for helps us to also establish consistency and improve employee morale.
Yeah. And do you use, you mentioned you're switching vendors, I won't get into asking who or what, because I appreciate this is sensitive, but do you have a view as to the benefit of using one vendor globally as opposed to using, best in class in different locations? Because I know people have got different views on that.
Well, we will actually go from using one global vendor to using two vendors. We will have one vendor for US immigration and one for outside of the US. For us, the challenge is when we have so many vendors, and I know that you can have expertise that is more profound, let's say, in different locations. But for us, being such a small team, when we're fully staffed, which we will be shortly, there'll be 9 of us. Being a small team, if we have multiple vendors, it becomes harder for my team to track, harder to look at all of the invoicing process, harder to make sure everyone's doing what they should be doing and managing the SLAs, harder to manage operational calls. And it becomes more of a burden than potentially a positive outcome for internal operations. And I think if what we've seen is for the US immigration side, we've got a very strong, brilliant vendor there. And if we can have that same capability for the rest of the world, and I appreciate there are locations that maybe they won't be top notch, but we also need to look at, are they top notch for our major locations, the ones where we have significant immigration? And if they are, which I hope they are, then we should be having a lovely employee experience.
Okay. So, I suppose there's two sides to this coin. There's the side of the employee experience and people not having the frustration of finding that something's gone wrong with their move or their visa's not been extended or whatever. But the other side, of course, is compliance. And ensuring that the company is managing its immigration, it's avoiding risks, it's avoiding penalties, it's ensuring right to work adherence. How do you deal with that side of it? And how important, obviously it's important, but how important is the compliance side in all this?
That is top forefront for us. So making sure we are compliant in everything we do. And because we send our employees also to client sites, we need to ensure that we are also making sure that they have the right to work and remain with the right to work, because it could not only jeopardize our brand, it could also impact our clients. So that is number one for us. And the processes that we will be implementing through having the new team that we've put in place will be tremendous, and we'll set it apart a little bit, because we will be starting the process earlier in our tracking to make sure that the renewals, or if they're non-sponsored, then they need to go and extend their own personal visas, that is done in a timely manner. And if we're running up against the clock because they haven't got it in place, we will have provisions to see, okay, do we need to put someone on unpaid leave? Was it because of a fault from their side versus JLL's side? And how we manage that will make it, will become much more compliant in the process. But compliance led this move to take over the immigration side.
Okay, so it was led by compliance, and obviously employee experience is a welcome benefit, but the main driver was to make sure that there wasn't a compliance issue or potential issue.
Exactly.
And what about, we've talked about people who are in country. What about business travelers and visas for them? And is that something that falls within your remit, or how's that dealt with?
So business travel doesn't fall within my team's remit. We have a travel team, and the travel team use a particular vendor for their business visas if needed. So that is managed outside of my team, although my team does look at the compliance aspect of that. So we get all of the travel reports every quarter. We analyze them to see, okay, do we have any risks that we can retrospectively fix, or also be forward thinking and look at particular travelers to see, okay, they have a pattern of traveling a lot. Let's get in front of them. Let's understand their travel pattern, and let's see what provisions we need to put in place.
Okay, cool. So what you're doing is you're looking at it, and you're getting presumably what reports come through to you, or how How does that work?
Yes. So we currently have multiple travel vendors, although we are consolidating. So our travel team sends us the reports from the multiple vendors every quarter that then get put together in one giant, lovely report. We then share it with our vendors to analyze, and we work with them to see the risks and to see travel patterns so that we can then get in the forefront of it and help for future travel, as well as fix anything retrospectively that we need to.
Okay, that's fascinating. I mean, this whole question of data and using the data is so important. Let's just see what Ferzine has just said. She says, to effectively monitor the success of standardized policies, what is the current process for tracking their impact and effectiveness?
So I think Ferzine means about the global immigration policy, because
yes, Ferzine, please do clarify that. But
yeah. So if we're talking about the global immigration policy, currently what we know, and we haven't done a deep dive to be truly transparent there, but what we know from the questions that we get from the different HR partners is that people, or we get comments saying, oh, well, the business has promised the employee this. The employee would like this because they've seen someone else have this, which is against the policy. And at the moment, we're saying, well, you're the owners of the policy. And to have all of the HR as the owners of a policy isn't the most, it's not the best way to work. So what we're hoping is that these requests from an immigration standpoint, and we're trying to do a lot of awareness that our team is now taking over all of immigration, will come directly to my team, where we can be the ones in front of that policy. We can understand what people are asking for. We can stop requests that don't align to the policy with the rationale as to why not. And we can talk to the business before the business have potentially promised the employee something that it would be hard to get out of.
That's always the key, isn't it? It's always about managing expectations, isn't it? And the thing to do is to be ahead of that curve, so that you can just warn people of problems before their eyes.
Exactly.
Okay, so moving on, you've told us a bit about mobility at JLL. Where does it sit?
Mobility, interesting question, Brian. Mobility currently sits under total rewards, but at the end of this month, mobility will be transitioning across to talent. So talent is the talent development, learning and development, as well as talent acquisition. So we'll be moving across to that team, which I think, from when I look at it holistically, and I also see where other companies are putting mobility or the linkage of mobility, I think we all can say we want to be that lever for talent development. That's what we want and have wanted for years, from mobility aspect, to say we are there, we're the lever.
Let me just ask that question of the audience, and maybe we'll get into that debate. So the question I'm going to ask the audience, and please write in the comments box, is where should mobility sit? And you've got a few choices. I mean, mobility can sit within reward. Mobility can sit within talent. I suppose mobility can sit within HR shared services.
Tax, legal.
Travel. It could sit under travel, I suppose.
And legal. It can be under legal.
Yeah. So so let's just see what we get from the audience about where should it sit. But you must have, this must have been thought long and hard, from a JLL perspective, about where it should sit. And tell me a bit of the logic, of one or the other. What do you see as the pros and cons, and why one is different or better, or the benefits, pros and cons of each?
So I think if we look at talent, from my perspective, I think being in talent allows us to be at the table with the people who are doing things for the company in order to develop our employees or to grow our employees. They're looking at the succession pipelines. They're looking at the skill gaps. And if mobility is sitting there, it can be that strategic enabler to see, okay, how do we use mobility in the correct way for our internal talent, which is how we should be looking at mobility. We should be using mobility to grow our talent portfolio and to ensure that our leaders have the capabilities to step up into the next job role or to grow their careers by having the appropriate skills that potentially can be utilized by having a mobility move. So I see a lot of benefit, and I see a lot of ways that mobility can strategically align to the business growth from a talent perspective. If we take it from a reward perspective, I think rewards also does link within, obviously, mobility, but more from the bottom line. Okay, what is the compensation we're providing? What are the benefits that someone's going to be having? And these can be, if you're doing a permanent transfer, the benefits in the local country and the compensation scale of the local country. Or if we wanted to do an analysis to say, okay, are they net better or net worse by this move? We can do that comparative. But I think it's driven from a compensation angle, rather, which can have a negative impact, because it can then be, does the business then say, well, the cost is too high, and they look at the numbers because you're more number focused, rather than from a talent lens where they say, okay, what are the skills? Why are we doing this? What is the return on investment we're getting by growing this talent? So I think it can sit either. It can sit in loads of places. Mobility touches so many spectrums, but yeah, I think for JLL's growth, the talent has a very good place with mobility and how we want to shape the mindset of our business.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that if mobility was an Olympic sport, it would be the decathlon, because we have so many different skills we have to have, whether it's a knowledge of tax, a knowledge of legal, a knowledge of compensation planning, a knowledge of employment law, a knowledge of immigration, of logistics, of intercultural training, of, so many different international pensions. There's so many skills that we need. Although normally, if you actually speak to a mobility professional, there is an area that they are best at, if you like, which is how they got into the industry. A lot of people got into mobility through maybe, they were tax advisors or immigration advisors or something else. So they've sort of, gradually worked in. But what I find interesting, and I tend to agree with you, I think talent is a great place for mobility to sit. But there's also this trade-off between what I'll call sort of soft skill HR and hard skill HR, that in mobility, we need a lot of hard skills, stuff that there's a right or wrong answer to, which is my definition of a hard skill. So, there's a tax rule is correct or not correct, an immigration rule is correct or not correct. Whereas talent is much more of a soft skill. There's various ways of doing it. And do you think that, I don't know, maybe the talent is the way forward, but the engine room is the harder skill? I mean, how do you balance those two out as a mobility professional?
I think it's always a balancing act, Brian. I think mobility, because I think with mobility, you do need to know, as you put it, the hard skills. You need to be driven by, okay, can you actually work in that location? What's the tax impact? How much is this going to cost the company? What's the risk to the company? How are we managing that compliance? But I think if I think of it for myself, I think mobility should be driven by compliance with the people at the forefront. So put it to a talent side, your people are what make your company. If you don't have people, you don't have a company anymore, right? Everyone needs their people. So if you need to grow your workforce or develop the next leaders, you need to have mobility able to develop that and help grow that. But that doesn't stop the compliance being number one, because you need to protect as well. But so I think it's a balancing act, but I think it also depends how you interact. How are you at relationship building? How are you at making sure you're clear? How are you at selling mobility to your organization.
Yeah, I mean, it's very exciting what you guys are doing, and certainly I look forward to speaking to you, over the next few months to find out how the move has gone, because it's, people talk about moving from reward to talent, and some people have done it, and some people have been in talent for a long time. But the transition, I think, is quite an interesting phase. What do you think will be different sitting in talent? What do you think will be the practical difference, either in your day-to-day roles, or probably even more importantly, in the day-to-day experience of the transferees?
Oh, you're asking me a tough question. I only knew about this change like literally 4 days ago.
This is hot off the press. Okay, this is hot off the press. Okay, this is.
So you're asking me really.
I should have put this in the breaking news segment.
So you're asking me a hard question.
I'll back off. It's an unfair question.
I haven't yet joined the talent meetings. I got to know. My team has a lot of items on our roadmap, which were going to link our team to work closely with talent this year. Yeah. So I can only hope that by being integrated into that team, that working collaboration will be stronger and will be more meaningful and powerful. But I will fill you in next time on that.
And I'm sure, part of it is going to be all about making mobility more strategic. And on that subject of strategy, I know one of the things that we were talking about earlier about is the concept of having, you've got growth locations and hot markets. Just tell us a bit about how JLL is sort of, and you guys are sort of working on which markets are your sort of hot markets.
So from a mobility lens, when I look at where are we growing or where are the numbers growing, we can really see a high intake going into India, going into the Middle East.
Going in, out of, so that's the direction.
Going into India, going into the Middle East, so into Saudi, into UAE, going into Canada. We can see more growth going into Australia. So we can see these areas growing. Was, if I compare it to 2 years ago, I would say hot markets were really US, UK, Singapore. So we see a turn on where our talent is needed to be sat.
Okay, so it's interesting. So those are the markets, and what does that mean? You nominate something as a hot market. Does that mean you're then putting more resource into sort of looking at, making sure you've got all the necessary sort of resources in place to be able to move people there at volume?
So yes, yes, it is like that. Like there is potentially, when we're told, okay, we're going to have considerable more moves into, let's say, India, we were looking at, do our policies align to the Indian market per se? Are they new hires, international new hires, or are they internal talent? And looking at how could we advance that so that whoever we're hiring has a soft landing. And it could be that they're going there to build up capabilities, which is more likely, and build up teams. And so we need to make sure that our people are able to move quickly and fluidly. And into India, as we all know, immigration processes can be quite lengthy. So we need to get in front of it quite early on, so we have a plan in action.
Cool. Okay. And I want to move on. JLL, obviously, you're in the real estate business, and we've talked about hybrid working, return, work from home, return to office. How does that work? Obviously, you're in the office business, so I'd be interested in your perspective on all that.
So JLL is that leader in real estate, of course. And so for us, our office is our primary place of work. We believe strongly that teamwork, collaboration is important, and it helps us to achieve our goals and to grow. However, we also understand that there is an importance of flexibility. So for us, that flexibility line is more driven by the business line someone sat in, or the function they're in, or the needs of the client and the team. So it's not that we're not flexible, but obviously being real estate, our offices are very fundamental.
Yeah, and you've got some lovely offices around the world. In fact, we saw in that opening video. So who wouldn't want to be there?
We do, and they're sustainable, which is fantastic.
Cool.
So the one in Canary Wharf is totally sustainable.
Wow. What does that mean in practice?
You're asking me now, but it looks very nice, and I believe it's to do with the materials, the lighting.
Is it? Yeah. It sounds absolutely amazing. And yeah, in fact, we're pretty much out of time. But Nicole, it's been just amazing having you on the show. And do you want to give a shout out to your team? I mean, because they're moving with you to talent. So
yes, my team are amazing. So our team is quite small at the moment, but we've got fantastic people. So Stephanie Anderson, Mel Gillet, Paolo, Rachel, Sassy, Rahi, you are all part of our lovely team. And then we've got 2 new people that will be starting soon.
Wow. Okay. So to everybody at JLL, I mean, you're amazing. It sounds like you're about to go on a whole new adventure, moving from reward to talent, and you've got lots of hot markets you're focusing in on, and you've got all the immigration in-house stuff going on. So there's a lot going on, isn't there? There really is a lot going on in JLL at the moment.
It's never dull here in JLL. I don't think I can ever say I've had a quiet month or year, or every year is something new and something new on our agenda. Yeah,
well, and then of course we could add on to that all the sort of, immigration and tax changes that we get every week, every day at the moment going on around the world. So it's an exciting time to be in mobility, and especially an exciting time to be in mobility at JLL. The best team around, says Billy.
Well, Billy is the best account manager. So.
Oh, there you go. Shout out to Billy. So we're just pretty much running out of time. So I'm going to bring back onto stage the wonderful Beth Nielsen, who did our update, the equally wonderful Julie Barron, who did our tax update, and I'll bring Michelle on too. I think she's camera off at the moment. I'll bring her on in here we go. I'm bringing Michelle back on stage. Julie Onslow Cole had to leave us because she'd just landed in Costa Rica and had some meeting that she had to go to, so she had to run. We are back next week on The View from the Top, when we're going to be talking about home sale, which is such an important subject that really, isn't dealt with as often as it should be, and especially in the US, it's hugely important. So that's our topic for next week. Meanwhile, this is the end of our show. My name is Brian Friedman. This has been The View from the Top, and all that it remains for me to do is to say thank you to our amazing guests, thank you to our amazing audience, and we'll see you all again this time next week. Take care, everybody, and have a great, great week. Bye.
Thanks, Brian. Bye.
Thanks, Brian. Bye.